Yeah. Give it a tap. Yeah. I don't know. We're all good.
Yeah.
You just have booming voices
Booming
from the world of
voices.
voices. Board game gateway. You're listening to fun. Do we really need all those funs in there? All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Board Game Gateway podcast, where this is your entry point into the world of board games, tabletop games, and fun times. My name is Neeber, and I am the host. Would you stop doing that?
I made that.
I just want you to come up with something new for once.
Yeah, Mr. Host.
Well, last time I did that, you guys all gave me crap about it, so I don't know if I want to anymore. Right. You know what? Well, fine. I'm wearing my Christmas hat because it's Christmas in Casa del Goober, and you can't stop me because the Christmas tree is finally up, and for all of those...
Monday, the 14th of November, we're recording this. It's a little early, don't you think?
No, you know what? You can take...
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, but what? That's okay. People want it loud.
Pinging.
Yeah, look.
People want it loud.
People want to be pinging.
You know what, Matt? You can take your 4 weeks of Christmas and it's less than 4 weeks of Christmas.
And do what with it? Come on.
And not have as fun a time as I'm currently having. In fact, if someone gives me a beer bottle right now, I could totally crack the sucker open with my Christmas hat.
Oh, your Christmas hat has a bottle opener.
You all jealous at the moment? You
I'm
should
pretty
be.
jealous.
That's like the Santa at the mall has a problem, but he has to hide it, so he has that hat.
That I may do, but that's okay. Anyway, if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, my name is Neeber, I'm your host, and these lovely gentlemen sitting around the table from me, Mr. Ralph.
Hello, everyone.
Mr. Matt.
G'day.
And the person who has his theme, his saying always stolen, Mr. Blayke.
Hello. No, I stole it this week, so I can use it. That's fine.
Well, I know, he seemed a bit sad about that for a second. Yeah. Anyway, in this week's episode, this is episode number 17 of the Gateway podcast. We're going to be having a chat about what makes games replayable. That's going to be our discussion topic for tonight. But before we get to there, we're going to have a chat about our Gateway game of the week, which this week happens to be Cockroach Poker. And before that, we're going to be having a chat about what we happen to play in the previous week. So let's inverse that order and start with that, and let's have a chat about what we've been playing over the past week, starting with Mr. Matt.
Well, as I'm the one who usually plays last week's game of the week with the kids to bring back to the table what happened during my week with the children,
I decided to go and play Terraforming Mars. Sorry, I shouldn't have done it. That was my bad. Continue.
No, it's fine. I reckon actually I could probably get to the point of Terraforming Mars in about a year, the way the kids are going. So we played Carcassonne as
Carcassonne?
Carcassonne. Whatever. Carcassonne or whatever. And not only with the 8-year-olds, but also we had a round with my 4-year-old and my parents, so the grandparents of the children. And yeah, everyone cottoned onto it really, really quick. Kids loved it. Gotten onto the whole procedure really, really well, placing their tiles, understood that only certain tiles could go in certain directions, so there wasn't just this randomized thing, like they had to actually have a look at their tile and make a strategic decision, so that was really cool to see. But yeah, they actually asked me 3 or 4 times. I think we played 4 games over the entire weekend, which was pretty good, but they also wanted to bring back to the table Llama, so cool. Had a quick game of that as well, but it's good to see that they're just developing their own repertoire really with games that they've played and that they want to keep coming back.
That's called retention.
That is.
Yeah.
Yes.
What I love about playing games with little kids is like you see their brain thinking.
Yeah.
Like it can actually, it's kind of, it sounds terrible, but like I always compare, because I don't have children, I always compare them to dogs. Like when you're training them,
so you can see them.
You can kind of see them working it out. Yeah.
You can see the cogs going over in their head. But my oh, come on! What are you giggling over about?
He nearly burped or coughed or something, and he's just sitting there meditating, going.
No,
you just have to open up a can of Coke on the
I
podcast.
tried not
Blake.
to interrupt. I really did. It's really silly, but Ralph knocked his cards over. It's simple.
He's building a card pyramid. So if you want to check that out, go to our YouTube channel.
I promise I'll have like a 5-tier card pyramid. by the end
You
of
can see
this.
that on @BG Gateway on YouTube.
You're talking about my children. You're interrupting with this card stuff.
I'm sorry.
Simple minds. I apologize.
There's-
I apologize.
on the topic of watching kids actually, like, you can see them understand the game. My daughter Madison, she's 4 years old. I'll stop. Not just all right. The cards go away. All right, you guys can't be
I just destroyed my card tower, and me and Blake just could not hold it back.
Well played.
But I'll put it away.
So Mads actually, after she understood the game, she realized there was a lot more fun in acting than there was in playing the game.
The
so
role
she would
playing.
take a card, and it was very much, ooh, well, I could put it over here, or I could, and watching her enunciate every word, the tiles would go in this space.
So she's
and
a little
down,
William Shatner.
Oh yeah, she is.
Full Shatner.
She went full shat. For a 4-year-old, that could go either way. But yeah, so that was good fun. And then
Nice.
my partner and I, Jane, we played 2 of the epic unlocks, which Neeber gave to us to have a look at, and failed both of them. Admittedly, only by a couple of minutes, but they're a lot of fun as well. So
That was in the Epic box.
Yeah.
So that was the movie one and the
movie
Chinese
and the
one.
Chinese guy.
The best one's coming up.
Yeah.
I really don't want to spoil number 3, but I really want to spoil it, but I'm not going to. You just have to play
come
number
back next
3.
week.
Number 3 made the box.
That's
for me.
on the menu for tomorrow night.
Yeah, so I highly recommend. I look forward to your report about that next week. But yeah, if you haven't played the unlock games, they are essentially just like an escape
room, yeah.
Yeah, they're an escape room that plays with a deck of cards, and it's done in an hour.
Some of the mechanisms in there, and especially with the companion app that actually obviously gives you some of the machines and stuff, there are some really, really clever little puzzles in
Yeah,
there. So.
the second one in the Epic, it doesn't really spoil anything, but essentially they have in the app, in the second one, they have like you're a spy, and one of the spies has got an X-ray vision. So in the app, you basically ask, "Can I use your camera?" and it says yes, and then when it detects, "Hey, we're looking at card 13," it overlays over the top of it what the X-ray vision of this coat was, or something like that. So you get some of this really cool stuff. So they've got some pretty cool, augmented reality and some stuff that they intertwine.
Makes
into
use
it.
of the gyroscope and everything in it, so it's not just touch screen stuff. It's all interactive. It's really cool.
Yeah, they even use the microphone for a couple of them, so some pretty cool. All right, well, we're going to continue around the table, and we're going to go to Ralph. We're going to go to you for what you've been playing this week.
Yeah, so I had a Friday night just socially with some friends coming over, and we decided to break out a game called Canvas, which is actually really funny because the box is an artwork and it looks like a canvas painting. So we didn't intend to play board games that night, but I strategically left it out in the public space, and one of my wife's friends said, "Hey, what's that? That's a nice picture." I'm like, "It's not a picture, it's a game." And then they were like, "Can we play?" I'm like, "Yeah, we can play."
So when you say we didn't play and I'm playing board games, you mean they didn't play it, but you certainly did.
I definitely plotted that, yes. But yeah, Canvas is a pretty cool little game. I have to show you guys sometime. And to be honest, it does make a great gateway game as well, because essentially it's kind of a mix and match set collection type game where you're just trying to piece together the best overlays to make a really nice picture. And you kind of get judged on your picture, not your attitude, but your picture. It's not a personality game, and you just get the most points wins. So on your turn, you're literally just like, "Oh, I like that picture. I'm going to take that overlay." And then when you have a minimum of 3 overlays, you pile them on top of each other, and you get points. That's pretty much the game. There's really not much to it.
So it uses those kind of translucent sort of cards that we've started seeing in a few games.
It's like the overhead projectors, but with color on it.
Yeah.
the acetate or whatever it's called, acetate sort of style thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. The fun part is the game, the overlays, the way you place them over to get the most points, it gives your picture a name. So my wife actually had a photo of a pug sitting on a pedestal and then a cannon shooting flowers directly at the pug. And it was like unexpected surprise. It's the name that it gave it. And like it's a cutesy, fun, silly little game, and there's different objectives in it. So as different objectives come out, the replayability is when the different objectives force you to collect different sets, and then you get different pictures every time. So
Cool.
yeah, that was a fun little game.
Awesome.
Anything else, boys?
Well, yeah, we're gonna talk about it, but we're gonna talk about the one that three of us at this table have played on Saturday. We're not gonna spend too much time on it, but
I'm just gonna sit back from my microphone.
yeah. So in the workings, we've been organising in the past couple of months. We've been organising a Twilight Imperium day. We've talked about it. It's Ralph and I's favourite game. Blake's top 10. It's a 10.5 hour epic space game as Matt starts to make his own card pyramid.
He'll be here for 10.5 hours.
But we hold the game on Saturday and we played it at Ralph's house. He set up the living room. He had the whole space, which was fantastic. And yeah, that was literally the day. We rocked up at about 8:30 in the morning and we left at about 8 o'clock at night. The game went there. None of us got the win here. My cousin, your brother Tom, got the win. Snuck it at the end of the 5th round, which, to be honest, with a monster round.
Yeah, well deserved win.
Very.
That was a fantastic turn. This was just beautiful.
It was literally a 40-minute turn from him because he had so many actions he could do. Like, we were all just sitting back there going, listening to his plan, going, how the hell is he going to sneak this? And then all of a sudden he's like, oh yeah, we got it.
And I'll tell you what.
I'll just say that was a pleasure to lose to.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll tell you what, I've got 40 minutes of Tom just playing with himself on camera. So
yeah, so we did actually.
Yeah, we've all got that.
Yeah, we did a diary room record, and so there's a 40-minute video on our YouTube channel which will be released very shortly of the unedited diary room footage. I am thinking about he dropped his cards. You guys need to stop playing around. We're trying to do the podcast. This is serious business, all right? So we're going to release that on our YouTube channel, which is going to be looking forward to. I think I'm going to see whether or not I can do a little bit of editing to it, but at worst we'll actually show you it. And it's really funny to watch it because it tells a story without actually seeing the board game. Because it's like there's one moment where Ralph is starting his diary room footage. Basically, he says in a nutshell, hey, I'm doing pretty good. I think I've had a really strong start. And the next 5 people all went, Ralph's had too big of a start. We have to dog him. Literally, basically in a nutshell for the next 5 minutes. So you see this story evolving.
You do. I'm not to spoil it, but yeah, they got me back hard.
Yeah, so look, I really loved it. Blayke nearly won the game, as he said. He lost it, Tom, but it was essentially him and our other friend George were essentially.
This is the second time he's done it to me.
Yeah,
too.
Tom has done this where Tom has done a 4-point turn, which in Twilight Imperium is a massive turn because it's first to 10 points.
Tom is huge combo.
Huge combo. I just can't compare.
But so Blayke and other friend George were essentially sitting on a victory condition that would have given them the win. And it would have been whoever was scored first was going to win it, right? So then Tom basically went, okay, I think I can stop you two from both winning and sneak the win in one turn, and he did. So it was a really big play. Really good. I really love it. I mean, it was the first time we played with my new neoprene mat, which was actually really good. So, I really enjoyed it as I always do. And yeah, I look forward to the next one. This is the first game that we played, I think, where not everywhere. A few of my brother Nick was like, this is the first game I'm going to play where I'm not drunk. And he got to the end game and was like, this is completely different than I remember. I was like, yeah, you're normally drunk by the time we get to the 8-hour mark. But it is a game of attrition because you get to that 8-hour mark and you're like, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. And that last 2 hours, that last turn, your mind just goes, oh, I want to squeeze every point out of this game.
I do have to give a shout out to my mate Joel Gary.
Joel
or Gary
dragged him into this game. He, much like a lot of our to-be viewers or listeners, hasn't played board games before, and he decided to dive into a 12-hour epic as his first venture since Monopoly.
And we never saw Joel or Gary again.
I started getting messages about 5 hours into the game going, when does this shit end?
To be fair,
it's a long-ass game.
Before I invited him into the game, I'm like, do you like Civilization? He goes, yeah, I like Civ. And I go, okay, so this is a Civ board game, and it is going to take us 10 to 12. As I said to him, you can tell me no, it's fine. You don't have to say yes to this. He goes, yeah, no, I think I want to try it. I went, okay, I will, if you want to be a part of this, I will invite you in. So I did. And, Yeah, by the end of the game,
He won't be back anytime soon.
He really truly didn't. He thought I was exaggerating when I was like, no, like this game, like. But the thing about this game though is you are so engaged for the entirety of the time, as we've talked about, is that it really does take a mental toll on you, because by the time you get towards the end game, you have been thinking consistently for the past 10 hours.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of like, oh, I'm so drained, and then like I think we all got home that night and literally just fell asleep.
Yeah,
like we
straight
were
away.
all like just straight to bed. It was
Legit. I do have to say, like, it was my first time playing with you guys for TI anyway. It was so much fun. I do apologize if I got, like, rules Nazi'd at times. But, like, yeah, I had an absolute blast that day. And indeed, by the time you left me, I think 20 minutes later, I was in bed. I think I napped the next day for 2 hours as well in the middle of the day, which is so unlike me. But yeah, I had an absolute blast that
never
day.
have to apologize about rules Nazi, because that means we're just playing the game as it actually should be played. And with a game like that, where literally after 10 hours it comes down to like 1 or 2 points, you don't want to feel like you've been gypped because someone was granted something that they shouldn't have had. And that's a very important thing. So
Can I ask? I wasn't there on the weekend, but Ralph, as you said, you hadn't played TI with the boys before. You've played it with other groups before, yeah?
Yeah. Two different groups.
Have you ever played it with a video diary being taken at the same time?
So there were improvements that I've shown me, like we played with the Extra Computer, which is a website that
I
goes
saw that
on
in
the
the
TV.
background of the photos,
and
yeah.
That
so good.
yeah, I think I won the guys over with that app. It's absolutely amazing, and I have to say the guys definitely won me over with the diary room.
Yeah,
that is an addition I'm always going to have for any big game. Any game that's going to take 3 hours that involves some sort of deal making, I think I'm going to have it.
Yeah.
It's
good to have that kind of hidden compartment of let's go and review this later on and see whether the real subterfuge kicked in on some people. Yeah.
And I was saying to Nee just through Messenger, I was like, the next time I can do a big Blood on the Clock Tower event, I want to set up rooms with microphones and like get everyone's chats on camera, like just little things like that. Like, yeah, the diary room really makes the game, because I've won one game of TI. I've played a bunch. I've only won one. I don't remember the game at all.
I think my favorite entry has to be when George, one of the players, was trying to make he wants this long entry, nearly a minute of how what his plan is, and how he needs Tom not to take the center Mechatol Rex from him, and he needs his support for the throne card, and if all this falls into place, he's going to be in a good spot. And then a couple of entries later, George comes back and it's just, I hate Tom.
It's like, fuck Tom.
It honestly was one of those great things. So
Yeah.
Look, I agree. It's just one of those games where it's not for everyone, but it is for us, and it just is one of those days that we get to play maybe once every 6 months. We kind of try to organise it for. So yeah, looking forward to the next one. So with that, we are going to now shift to, we're going to go from one end of the spectrum in one of the longest games you can ever play into our gateway game of the week, and actually probably one of the shortest and most fun and simplest games that we've played in a long time, called Cockroach Poker. And this is going to be our gateway game of the week. And because he was the one who introduced it to us, I'm going to hand this one over to Ralph, because Ralph, you tend to be introducing them a lot more, but let's start with how we play this game, and then we'll get into what we thought of it.
Sure thing. So, are we allowed to swear on this podcast? I assume we're allowed a little cuss here and there.
Fuck yeah.
All right. That
was it, though.
Yeah, that was it. That met our quota.
1 F, 3 S's.
So a lot of people are familiar with a common game called Bullshit. This game is sort of my replacement for that, in a way. It's a lot more simpler once you get your head around the introduction of it. So this game is called Cockroach Poker. It's a little French game. It's not Carcassonne, but it's Cockroach Poker. Basically, it's a deck of cards. I don't know how many cards there are, but there's a deck of cards. It gets divided evenly between all the players. It goes from 2 to 6 players. And I've played this at pubs and things through the years. I've had this for 7 years or so. But there's 8 different suits of cards and 8 different copies of every card. So you have your cockroach, your stink bug, your spider, your rats, frogs, flies, bats, and George's favorite, scorpions. We just played this before, and Georgie doesn't like me because I gave her a 4th scorpion, and when you get 4 of one animal, you lose the game and everyone else wins.
Yeah, so the game at its core is that you don't want to win, you just don't want to lose.
Yeah,
that's the thing. The game ends when there's a loser, not a winner.
So the way the game works is from your hands, you pick a card, say I pick a spider, and you pass it face down to another player. and you tell them what that card is. It can be a lie. So say the card's actually a spider. I pass a card to Nee and I say, Nee, that's a frog.
I can either say, yes, it's a frog, or no, it's a frog. And either way, if I say, yes, it's a frog, and I look at it, and it happens to be a frog, then Ralph would get the card, and he would put it face up in front of me. However, I say, yes, it's a frog, and I reveal it, and it actually is a spider, I was wrong, so therefore the card goes up in front of me. And this is where the game really took that turn for us, Ralph, because it's very much it's only ever one card. You pass one card to someone and say what it is. There is a third option which I could do, which is that I can say yes or no, but I could, for example, pass Blayke a card and say, Blayke, this is a fly.
Yeah, so Nee would look at the same card that I just gave him. Yeah.
So I would look at the card that he said, that's a spider or a frog. And I could look at the card and go, And I could go, Blayke, that's a fly, and actually pass that card further on. And by doing so, Ralph is now absolved of all yes or no, of all lies he may or may not have committed, and now it's all on me to pass it down the table to Ralph. Back to Blayke or Matt, or in this case, my wife Georgie, who played this game with us. And once again, he's now faced with the same decision. Is it actually a fly?
And I could say yes, I could say no, or I could look at it and say, you know what, no, that's a cockroach, and pass it along again. And we can keep doing this until it gets to the last person at the table. And the last person at the table.
It's so a spider. I saw it before.
And now and so then it would go to Blayke. And then it's basically every card you are incorrect, you get it in front of you. Every card that you are correct, you take it, send it back to the person who sent it to you.
Yeah, so once you collect 4 of one animal, now remember there's 8 of every insect, you're the loser if you have 4 and everyone else wins. So really, you don't want to be that person that has 4 of an animal because that will make you lose. But where it's really cool, the moments I love about this game is when you have 3 of one animal. Say I have 3 scorpions, and then I have a scorpion in my hand, and I just give it to a player and tell them that's a scorpion. It gets them every time because they always think, oh, that's not a scorpion. Ralph, you want to be an idiot like that? I'm like, yes, I will.
I think we can all say with absolute joy and delight that this one gets a big thumbs up and a Board Game Gateway
straight
kind
away,
of recommended.
absolutely.
It is. So just to give you a couple of quick things, this is actually released in 2004, so the game's now 18 years old.
Wow.
The box says it should be played with kids 8 or up, and I think that's probably about right. I think you're probably, once they get the idea of how it's just lying to each other, don't really worry too much about the end of the scoring.
I reckon there's 2 phases in this game. There's how can I deliver the same word that everyone else has delivered a number of times, but get away with this, right? So we're all just trying our best to outdo each other with the stupidity, and then it becomes, I better count these cards and figure out what the actual odds are and how to win this thing as well.
Because it's a very sharp turn as well once you start actually counting the cards in front of everyone. Well, if someone hands me a fly, well, there's already 7 flies at the table. It's pretty low odds, but maybe that's what they're counting on.
But even it started off no cards on the table, and I was thinking, this is going to be a bit of silliness. And then as soon as everyone had about 4 or 5, it got a little bit serious. All of us we were playing for keeps. So.
There was a moment where 4 of us all had like 4 or 5 cards in front of us, and then Ralph had nothing.
Yeah.
And then we all just went on like Ralph.
No, did he have nothing? But he made a public announcement that he had nothing. I'm doing really well.
This is my TI game all over again, isn't it?
Well, then it was like everyone just had his number from that point for the next 4 minutes. Everyone was like, nope, you don't have that. Yep. But the moment I think for me that I really enjoyed was the moment it was like, Ralph passed something to me and said, Nee, that's a spider. And then I passed it and went, oh no, he goes, Nee, that's a fly. And then I passed it to Matt and go, no, Matt, that's a spider. And then Matt looked at it and went, no, it's a fly. And then passed it to Blayke, and Blayke went, yep, it's definitely a fly, and passed it to George. And then George went, that's not a fly. And I was like, yes, it was definitely a fly. And it was that moment of like, when Ralph passed me the initial thing and then I changed the lie because I was incorrect. The fact that you went back to, no, I can tell you the truth still. That's fine. That was the moment for me that the light bulb went, dink. Oh, it doesn't like, it's not like, because normally in bullshit and when you're playing these card games, it's like, when I play, when I say, hey, this is 2 3s, Blayke can't just go, no, it's actually 5 3s or 4 3s or whatever it is. He'd have to change it and go, oh, that's actually 2 3s, or
Two
two 4s or whatever, and build it up. Whereas this game just says, no, you can say the information. It's like, here's your 8 pieces of information. However you want to do it is now up to you. It's like, you can lie, but then you can tell the truth. And it's the fact that you can say the truth again really throws people, because they're like, but was Nee actually lying? but then what I noticed, it was the communal lie.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, Ralph started the lie, then I told the truth, then you guys went, Matt, no, it's a fly. Kept the lie, and then Blayke was like, oh, I know what's going on, and just kept the lie going, right?
So,
Passes it to George, and then was like, okay, there we go. It was amazing to watch. Like, sitting back and watching that happen was amazing.
And if you're that player, that last player who can't look at the card because every other player has, you just look at every single other person at the table and see if you can read anyone and just hope.
I learned very, very quickly not to do that. The second you look at more than the last person who sent it to you, it's game over. You have no hope of fishing any information, because you haven't. When it boils down to it, there's nothing counts except for the last person's.
But after the pressure is off, whoever's passed the lie away from them,
Yeah.
their face can't give away anything, because they're just enjoying the fact that it's not them.
Exactly.
So there is nothing written on there. I don't care what it is anyway.
And as soon as you start looking around the table, you're done for. So you just got to zoom in on the person who gave it to you and just try to pick it.
I had so much pressure on the first two, because I went first, and then the first one I passed, I'm just going to go straight and pass to Georgie, my wife, and she guessed it completely. So they go, all right, I'll try to go to Ralph, and he guessed it immediately. So I'm sitting there with 2 cards in front of my head, and I'm doubting whether or not I'll be able to actually sell a card to anyone for the rest of the game.
Because if you take a card, you have to give out the next card.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
You have to keep it going. The other thing which I thought, speaking of reading people though, it was really funny. The very last play of the game was Georgie was sitting there with 3 scorpions, and Ralph then basically...
I had 3 bats at the time too.
Yeah, 3 bats. And so he put down in front of her and goes, yeah, that's a bat. And Matt and I looked at each other and went, oh, that is so a scorpion, no matter what. And the fact was, Georgie, like, we knew it was a scorpion. Like, we don't know how we knew, but we knew. And then Georgie did the one thing that you should never do she looked at it, and then you could see them. You can see the emotions crossing her face of like, oh crap, that's what the thing. Okay, I need to pass it. Oh crap, I'm taking too long. They're gonna know. And then she just like, oh no, just flipped up. So she
Just
was
conceded.
looking at me and Matt just bursting in laughter. We looked at her and was like, that's a scorpion. Like, we know it's a scorpion.
It's so fun when you're in this position where you have 3 of 2 insects, because everyone's going to stuff you up. And if you can fight back and somehow still survive, that is so rewarding.
I bet it would, yeah.
It's really incredible. But I love showing people this game. The laughter this game generates is on par with a Nomi for me.
And so quickly as well. Like, it's not one of those games that, you sort of build into.
Yeah.
We were straight away, within 1 or 2 passes,
That
already in fits.
Certain award, D.
A certain award?
A certain award.
Well, it was...
The learn was pretty quick. We were playing within 5 minutes. Give her the award, D. Say the words.
I can't give it to it. It didn't earn the words. It didn't get the words.
Say the line, Neeber.
Spiel de Janus. Yeah! But it didn't earn it. No, but I think there's not really much else to say about this one though. Like it like that's the game, and it was perfect for what it was. And you said, Ralph, that you take this to play at a pub. It fits in a little 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter box.
That's all you need. It's a deck of cards.
It's 64 cards, right? That's all it is. You could tie it up with a couple of rubber bands, whip it out and start playing the game. I think that's why I think we definitely give it the Board Game Gateway seal of approval, because it's like, I think honestly one of our favorite gateway games that we've done in the series so far. Yeah,
it's a little $20 game. I've got the original called Cockroach Poker. There is Cockroach Poker Royale, which just has another suit. It's a little bit different, and there's also a version called Cheating Moth, which is different. You actually drop cards off the table and pick them up and hope no one catches you and things like that. It's super weird, but it's another fun little game to play when you're on your first drink.
Doing these ones just hide the cards.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, that was Cockroach Poker. It was released in 2004, and it was designed by Jacques Zimmet.
I've mentioned this before on the cast a while ago, but one of my favorite board game moments was with my dad. We played 4 games of this, and he passed me a card. After playing this, quite familiar with the game, he just goes, "That's a snake." And everyone just burst out laughing because he was 100% serious.
having played the game now, that story just is so much more funny. Understanding where it's like, you could just imagine him going, "Yeah, it's a snake."
Yeah,
with full confidence.
It's a snake.
That's a snake.
It's not. But look, I will say this game though perfectly leads us into our discussion topic for the week. And this week we mentioned at the start of the episode, which is that we wanted to talk about replayability and board games because. Let's be frankly honest, board games are kind of designed to be played frequently, more than once. But not every game is replayable. Not every game gets replayed a lot, especially in the modern board gaming. We wanted to have a chat about things like, well, what makes a game replayable? What games do we like that we think? What games kind of give us the best value for our money? I think is another one because, let's be honest, if you listen to episode 16 last week, you'll know that some games, depending on when you buy them, can be really expensive. Like Slay the Spire, for example, which is currently $160 on Kickstarter. So, in this age where we're trying to be fiscally responsible and stuff like that, it's I think an important question and an important discussion topic to have a chat about because. I mean, let's be honest. Let's start with the obvious. Like, what makes games replayable? Like, this is a hobby that we're in and we're playing.
I reckon we go around and give you your number one reason. Because, everyone's got multiple, but what would be the number one reason you come back to a game?
See, I think the number one reason for me, and I've talked about this as one of the reasons why I really like it. So I'll go first, seeing as I brought up the thing. I think for me, the agency of a player is my biggest one for what is replayability. And so by agency, what we're referring to is the fact that you as a player actually have... you're in control and you actually have an effect on what is happening in this experience that you're having. So agency, for example, if you had a lack of agency, well, let's say, for example, this is one of the reasons why I've went on a quest to discover why I didn't like Monopoly. And the reason was not because I think it's a crap game. It was because I realized I didn't have any control over what I'm doing. Yeah, roll dice, move, resolve action. I didn't actually do anything other than...
buy everything you can.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, I just picked up dice, roll, resolve. It's like I'm not actually doing any interesting decisions. And we'll talk more about it, but I just want to say, like, agency, that's for me. But we'll go... Blayke, what about you?
Definitely the main reason I come back to the same board game, and I've talked about it before, I'm a big puzzle person. I'm a big fan of solitaire, Euro-style games, and for me, the reason I come back to a board game most of the time is trying to solve that puzzle just a little bit more efficiently. Just trying to really do the best that I can, and playing against other players as well, and seeing how I fare against, or how other players are also solving that same puzzle and approaching it in a different way. That's always very interesting to me.
Oh, Ralph, we'll go to you.
Yeah, it's hard to pick one thing.
Just the top one.
The top one?
Yeah.
We'll talk about
for me, I would say variability. I never want to play a game and have the exact same experience twice in a row. I want things to be different every time. As Nee loves the discovery of a game, I want to have that feeling every time I play a board game.
Yeah.
Mine's, was it fun? We got 4 different ones right around, but like if I haven't had fun that first play, I probably won't come back to it.
Yeah.
Even if I can sense, there might be something there. If I didn't enjoy that first one, I'm not.
Oh, it's like a first date, yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
but like don't mean like in terms of what we just did with Cockroach Poker, where it was a laugh. I just mean fun as in it was that enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
If it's a mind bender, that's awesome, but. It has to be something that just captures my attention, I suppose.
It is hard to overcome that first experience, especially if it's a bad one.
Yeah. That's why I know, speaking of Joel, who came and played Twilight, I don't necessarily want to play him to play another big game of Twilight Imperium, but I would love to try and get him soon into playing some sort of game, smaller one. Cockroach Poker, for example. Get him in, let's play something like the drinking game, the Red Dragon Inn. Yes. Something that has a bit of a theme that I think would be fun, that he would enjoy. Something that's not 10.5 hours, plays in less than an hour, and go, I'm so sorry that you started with Twilight Imperium. Let's actually go and do something else.
I did try.
Sorry, if you can hear that sound, there's something going on outside our house at the moment. So some kind of truck doing something. So I do apologise. Hopefully it'll be gone shortly. But
no, I did try to suggest that to him as well. You know, this isn't the game to judge. He did send me a message and says, "I don't think board games are for me," and I just said, "Look, this isn't the game to judge that on. Look, there are games." He said he didn't.
There
like
are
the
board
waiting
games
between
and there are
turns.
board experiences.
Definitely.
It's another level.
Definitely.
You know?
He said he didn't like the waiting in between turns, waiting for other people to do stuff, especially because he fell behind quite early.
Yeah.
Just didn't feel like he had that, like Neil was saying, agency.
It's so in depth as well. Like if you're that one in particular, as soon as you fall behind, it's hard to catch up.
Yeah, and I just said, look, there's games where you're not even waiting between turns, where everyone's sort of going at the same time. There are games where, they're 40 minutes, they're an hour, like 20 minutes even, There's really is in this hobby something for everyone. I truly believe, and look, I think we will get him back. We will get him.
For sure.
I do think as well, like, let's take a game like Cockroach Poker as well, right? The game itself is played in 64 cards. We played in less than 20 minutes. And in terms of replayability, the game, this is another point, which is that it comes from the player interaction. Like, the whole game is just literally, it's not actually about the cards. The cards are just the device. It's actually the moment of, like, I'm going to pass a card to Matt, and I'm going to see if I can lie to you right now. And that lie may be, I'm actually lying about the truth, or I'm lying about the lie. You don't actually, but that's the game, right?
But then also, and I'm going to see what you do with that information, either pass it along or take it. Yeah, I agree that I really like the topic of the agency of a game, because there's so many games and taking it in the opposite direction, as you said, games that don't give you that, where you're just sitting there, you're a spectator of something happening, and that's it. Yeah. And I'm sure that your friend with two names, who we'll just call two name Tweedledee, Tweedledum, like that was half the problem, right?
Yeah.
He, in his own world, especially as I said, because I had the first time we played TI, it's not only if you're not participating, but if you miss your own rule, right? You've got something that you didn't pay attention to or didn't realize that could be your saving grace for this round. Not only are you behind, but you're behind on yourself as well. And you're like, you've got to doubly work as hard to get back in that next round, and it just feels like the game is passing you by, and everyone else has got it. Whether or not they do have it, it's a different story, though, I suppose.
I will talk about this game on the cast in the future, but I played a game called John's Company, which is extremely highly player interactive, and that's something I really love about the replayability of games like TI, where it's all about the player interaction. However, I played my first game of John Company not knowing what's tradable, what does this mean, things like that. So I really feel for Joel when he played a massive game of TI and not really knowing what he can talk about, or when someone offered him a deal, like, what does this mean, that sort of thing. So, and
then we come to like Carcassonne, where there's a kind of a mix, because the way the game is written, you don't have agency over what you get. It's luck of the draw on the card, but you do have agency as to where it goes. But even that is a limit, depending on what pieces have been played around. So you were discussing in the last podcast, Neeber, that you play a variation where you actually take 3 cards, 3 tiles, and then cycle through. You take a fourth, and you just always have 3.
You're playing
in your
like a
hand.
hand of cards.
That's right. So that, I suppose, provides a little bit more agency to the game in that case. But I don't think that's to the detriment of the game, the way that it's written.
I don't think it was necessarily add agency. I think that variation specifically was to reduce downtime, because what it meant was that rather than when we played it as it was written, that problem resurfaced again for me. And that problem for me is, as soon as you have placed your tile, I can't do anything but watch my fellow players place their tile.
But I think that's the type of game Carcassonne is. It's that chill game.
It really is, and I think you are right. It allows you as a player to go, you know what? Now I can sit back, have a sip of my coffee, eat my biscuit, my tea, and then I come back. Oh, it's my turn. I now draw and I make the best decision possible. I think just for me, where I'm at the moment, to give me that less of a downtime, it's like I've got a couple of tiles and I can start to make some plans and go, oh, maybe I'd like to continue that. Oh, that looks kind of juicy. Ralph just put his thing down there. And I think that also leads to, that's actually why I think Carcassonne is so popular, though, is because it is so simple and it does offer you that that decision space, which is I've now picked this up and now I have to make the plan. Now I really do think Carcassonne would be really interesting with a timer. Like you could do a speed variant, right? You can say, okay, let's go. You have 30 seconds to make your choice. As soon as you pick the tile, go 30 seconds, and like not as in a way to speed the game up, but to kind of like make you just kind of evaluate the situation. And I think that could be a fun variation maybe. And like, so speaking of variation, that's kind of another point of like replayability. We talk about variability in games, and some games try to implement this in a lot of different ways. I mean, things like, we'll have like variable setups. They'll have variable player powers. They will have
copious amounts of cards that you can filter through,
or like events that happen during the game that differ your play. Sort of thing.
Like let's take for example Brass, for example, right? A heavy game, but the way that the setup works is that there's like 6 major cities that you need to trade at. So what it does is it says, okay, rather than having all of the same cities, we're going to change what you can trade at those cities. So the map stays the same, but what you can trade and where, that changes.
I think you also strip 4 cards out of the whole game as well, so you can't go to certain places. There are certain cities that just never come out of the deck.
It depends on the player count, I think.
Yeah, well, I think we still, even at full play, you still
at 3 players, the purple cards for example don't get in play, but you can still go there if you draw the wild card. So you can still use that part of the map. But that's that kind of variability where games do recognize that some players are looking for different, as you said, Ralph, variability.
Yeah, like even I tend to be a solo gamer at times, and there's a massive game I brought up before called Mage Knight. I've played that game probably 30 times or so, and no 2 games have been the same. The variability is just insane. So what makes the game replayable for us? We got player interactions, we have variability in the game as well. Does theme matter for replayability of a game?
I think so. If you don't enjoy the theme, you won't come back to it. It may not be the overall driving factor for a lot of people.
Yep.
Right? Like I would play Isle of Cats again, even though I didn't enjoy the theme of cats that much. But it certainly isn't something that I go, well, I have to go and play the cowboy games again and again because I really like cowboys. Like, if the game's crap, it doesn't matter about the theme.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, like we talked about a lot in our last week's podcast, theme is primarily, getting people in, but I think it does help in that team, when you're deciding what to play.
For sure.
That I really enjoyed that game. That theme, really speaks to me. And like Nee said, sci-fi, like those games are just going to speak to you on a basis when you look at something.
I think theme as well couples very neatly with the actual audience you're playing it with as well.
Yes.
If you've got a group of people who aren't enjoying the theme, but you are, it doesn't matter how good the game is, or the theme, right? It's the experience isn't there.
Yeah, it depends. Like obviously, a lot of games have to tick a lot of boxes. It's not every game's going to tick every box. Like Cockroach Poker, player interaction, fantastic. Replayability for it's the same cards every time, but it's the player interactions. With a game like Blood on the Clock Tower, player interactions are amazing. You can lie to someone, see how they take that sort of thing. But the theme's not for everyone. Not everyone's going to be, buying the witchcraft sort of vibe, So yeah.
No, sorry.
With just on theme, one of my other mates, he does play a few board games. He's not the biggest board gamer. This mostly applies to when he's playing video games with us. Theme is a very big draw for him. He is very grounded in realism and realism in games. If you start telling him that you've got your orcs and you're going to slay some dragons in the town of Googly Whoop, he's
out.
He's immediately checked out before he's even got to the mechanics of the game or anything. Even if it's something he would really enjoy, he immediely mentally checks out.
What about something like that, like Assassin's Creed? Like if it's historically inaccurate, he won't go there, or
if as long as the mechanics of the game are grounded in realism. He is a big history buff, so he does play games like Hearts of Iron and things like that. But as long as the mechanics of the game and all that are grounded in what's realistic, as soon as you start getting into mages, orcs, magic, he's checked out.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think it is also like coming back to with 2-player themes, right? If you're wanting to play a game with, say, your significant other, it depends on what your relationship is, but that person may not be up for a really confrontational sort of game. And now, as good as a game as, say, something like Seven Wonders Duel is, they may not be up for we're competing empires trying to create the best, empire, and we're going to do that by creating armies and stuff. But whereas a game, maybe something like Patchwork, which is a game with, like, we're making a rug.
Yeah.
But it is actually, there's a lot of meaty decisions there, and a lot of, to be good at that game, you actually have to think about what your opponent is doing and block them from getting the appropriate piece, which is still just as confrontational. The only difference being is that I'm like,
it's almost passive confrontation.
The presentation of the game, that some people would be more willing to play a game more often based on that particular thing.
So, my wife and I, we gave a game called Fog of Love a go, which is where you role play two couples working on their marriage. So my wife didn't like it, so you're telling me she doesn't want to work on our marriage?
So that's a very brave decision to even play the game in the first place.
I have actually been very interested in it.
I had the most fun with that game when playing with just a mate of mine.
Yeah.
When we role played a couple going through some shit. It was so funny.
Is that the one they've done on Shut Up?
Yeah, they did do that.
That looked like a lot of fun.
It's if you and I were to play it, Blake, it would be absolutely hilarious. If you play it with your partner, you're bringing up real shit.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Real quick.
Before we, I'd also wanted to bring up something. This is kind of a throwback to last week as well, which is that I wrote down these games like it offers something unique. So something to gaming, which I think we are very fortunate, is that we're being presented with a lot of interesting and unique challenges that you don't normally get to do on a day-to-day basis, whether or not you're role-playing as a couple who are going through marriage counselling, or whether or not, I hope you don't have to go
Too real.
or you're creating a patchwork rug for someone, but like something like last week, the Turing Machine, right? How it offers a puzzle. Yes, we love puzzles, but the way that it's presented, I'd never seen anything like that. And to me, that is something alone makes me want to get the board game out and just play it. And I'm not much of a solo gamer. At the group, I'm probably most adverse to playing solo. If I'm going to play solo, I'm generally a story kind of guy. Like, I like to go and play games on the computer, like Mass Effect, Baldur's Gate, things that give me some sort of big, grand arcing story. But Turing Machine was the first game that I legitimately went, no, I could see myself just sitting down, opening the box, and trying to do this. And so just because it offers me that unique thing that I've never really done, and I was like, oh, I want to open this up and play with it, and do that. I would like to also bring up some members of the community. We did open up this question to people on our Facebook and Discord, and we asked them, this same question: what makes a game replayable? And I would like to start with a couple ones. I want to start with the troll answer. He's trolling, but he's also not trolling at the same time. But I'd like to give a shout out to Damo, who basically said, so what makes a game replayable? His answer was, not cutting up or throwing away board game content, even if it tells you to. Referring specifically to legacy content. I'm having a bit.
Sorry, Damo, I have to disagree with you on that one, man. We just finished Betrayal Legacy, which is Betrayal at the House on the Hill, and we tore up heaps of cards. I had a mountain of rubbish on my dining room table when we completed the campaign of it, which was like 13 games. But then the game leaves you with a box that you can play with, and it's completely unique to us. So yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I will say games like Risk Legacy and stuff, which we did complete as well, we never have touched it again. But that's also because we kind of have created this hellscape through the campaign that it kind of doesn't make sense to go and play a full game on that particular sort of thing. So I understand what he's also saying.
Definitely.
But I do agree with you as well that sometimes there is something very unique about sometimes finishing something going, oh, I'd like to play that again from scratch.
I will be buying another copy of Pandemic to play the Legacy one. That's still replayable for me if it's new.
The next one that I would like to give a shout out to, and we'll read out, is from Reese Shelley Jones. So hello, Reese. He said, the designer's ability to increase the likelihood of a game to never play the same twice.
Variability.
So variability, so for him, was a very big one. Now, I have to say, though, that variability as well, the way that a game plays and the presentation of its game is completely different. Like, you think about, like, physical games, like basketball, football... Crokinole, all this stuff. The game itself and the way that it works, the board and the state of play is always the same. However, the challenge and the replayability comes from the mastering of the systems, or the dexterous skills.
But I think as well, to carry on in and possibly extend on what Reese was saying as well, the design of the game or the designer of the actual gameplay, it has to be intricate moving parts, right? How many games have we played where there is 200 different event cards or action cards or power-ups or stuff that you never get to, but by the time you do get to, or you may never actually get to, because it's like there's too many options here to make this game enjoyable. You can't master it in any sense unless you've played it 50 times and seen all the cards in any variety.
Yeah.
So the design on that side is knowing how much is enough to make it replayable but not overwhelming and just throwing more shit at the wall and just hoping it sticks,
That's what happens. Spirit Island falls a little bit in that trap. The event card deck is ridiculously tall, but you only go through maybe 5 or 6 of them in the game. So you can never predict what's going to happen, which is interesting, but it's also it's a fine balance, But the thing is, it always has that option where you can just remove that part of the game entirely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, even though you don't want the game to play out the same way twice, you are also going back to that game for that level of familiarity because you enjoyed it the first time around. So it's this tightrope balance of trying to create a new experience and a new way of experiencing that game without actually taking away from what was so enjoyable at that first experience.
Something like Brass, coming back to Brass, we always come back to it, but I could play that game with the cards drawn the exact same way every time, but it would still be a unique experience because I would still be trying to solve the puzzle. What's the most efficient way of using that?
Yeah.
But the fact that the cards are different every time you play means you have to be on your toes and duck and weave throughout everyone else's machinations as well as you play. So once again, there's not enough diversity in the card play to make it overwhelming, but there's still plenty of replayability in that game because of the decision making.
I'd like to shout out to another member of our Discord because a few of his points, this is Carnival or Tristan on our Discord. So these have all come from our Discord, which you can find on our website, boardgamegateway.com. He says, he has a couple of points here. 1, being able to try new strategies. 2, randomness. 3, alternate paths / endings. 4, new player groups. I don't really understand that one, but I think he's referring to the idea of that you could play this with multiple groups and it would still be exciting.
I think that is I think that's a very, very serious.
Well, I mean, TI is the example of replayability, but you got to have the right group.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. I've shown probably 12 different groups Cockroach Poker. Honestly, it's just been a hit everywhere it goes. Yeah.
So he said 4. This would be 5. Learning to be better at the game, so the mastery of the game, and 6, variety, like asynchronous player powers. I can play 26 different spirits in Spirit Island now. So it looks like for Tristan, a lot of this happens to be a lot of mastery of the game and find the same thing with you, Matt. Finding his way through the puzzle seems to be a very big thing for him, and I think I do agree that there is quite a lot of that when it does come to board gaming because, well, at the end of the day, we have a box of components, and this components are going to give us something. So we kind of need to, they need to give us something. Otherwise, why would I get that box off the shelf again when I have so many other things?
I think we might just say a couple of games each that we can just play forever and just be perfectly content with.
Narrowing
it down to a couple is hard.
Yeah, it is very hard. Before we do that, I would just like to give out the final comment that we have. We only have one more, just because I want to make sure that I don't miss it. Because if I do, the winner of TI game, he did say replayability.
Tom, get rid of that guy.
He said replayability for him revolves around balanced gameplay with different strategy routes. Not knowing how you'll be able to play the game depending on the card draws or interactions keeps it interesting as well. So I'm just going to give that to Thomas, because this comes back to me, because Twilight Imperium, the reason why I said that, Ralph, is because your question leads me directly into, as much of a pain as it is to organise one of these days, but Twilight Imperium is a game that I will be able to replay, because the game itself is not it's like you're reenacting a space epic. Like, yes, we're maneuvering ships, and yes, we're doing a Civ game, but a lot of this game comes down to, Blake, you said it when we were playing, the game comes down to, no, you just wait till the agenda phase opens up, because that's when the real game takes place. Because Tom actually made the mention of, like, he likes balanced games. Twilight Imperium is not balanced in any way, shape, or form.
I was just about to say, the number of games, that can go both ways, right? There are balanced games where everyone plays the same amount of turns, blah, 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 but it can also, if you have a game which can get immediately unbalanced, where there's some card that just end game, blow the Blake space away kind of machinations there, right? That stuff can drive you to not play a game.
Were you there with you on Saturday? That's exactly,
of course I was.
That's
there.
exactly what happened to Ralph.
Wasn't there?
That's exactly what happened to Ralph. But that's the thing. Twilight Imperium, though, is not in any way, shape, or form balanced.
They did the best they could.
They balanced it ish.
And you start the game as balanced as you can, but everyone's asynchronous. Everyone's different. Yeah, it's an incredible game.
Exactly. But a lot of the balancing comes from, we as players need to recognize the threats, take care of the threat, and then the agenda phase is also that phase where it does allow you to kind of go, this card is really going to help the person who is in first. You cannot let this one go through. And so that kind of thing.
What's really cool is, like, you might be a race that's really good at doing one particular thing, but you identify where your weakness is, and you are actively trying to plug that hole to keep your system alive and keep having the best experience you can. So that's the puzzle of TI.
Absolutely. So that's one game for me. I mean, look, another game which...
Is that a game you can play forever because it takes forever?
Yeah, well, probably. I mean, look, but there are other games that I think
I could play TI...
Once.
Once every couple of months is enough.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think as soon on my way home, I even thought, man, I don't want to do that again.
I just can't believe the next day everyone was talking about in the chat, we want to do a session by session game. I'm like, dude, I'm still recovering.
But it was. I went home thinking, I don't want to do that again. But then as everyone was talking about it again the next day, I'm like, I'm actually pretty hyped again. Maybe not straight away. But
I think that's when we say, is there a game that you could play forever? And I think that's the thing, which is, I think what we're really saying is there a game that you would never say no to? And there are a lot of games actually kind of like that, I think, for me.
How much time do we have?
But that's what I mean, which is that when we're saying, would you like to play a game forever? It's kind of saying, well, given the situation, would you play this game? And I think, actually, to be honest, most of my collection falls under that category. Like, especially with board games, a lot of them I don't leave... I don't leave them with me because I don't ever want to play them. I think, I'm not going to play that game. I think it's a lot of the time it's under the right circumstances. But I think another one that really stands out for me is obviously, like, if you go to our top 10, really, those are games that will always fall under this, like Terraforming Mars, Brass Birmingham. But if I'm going to take a gateway game, something that I will always play, it's not a gateway game, but a two-player game, I will always be down for a game of Seven Wonders Duel. Always. I love that game. And even something as simple and, I think, as Dominion. Dominion, I just adore this game, and Georgie and I have played it at two players, and like we've talked about, the theme is drab, but Georgie loves this game, and to be honest, she gets pretty pissed when she doesn't win because she really tries hard to beat me at it.
You taught me Dominion online, and I think I ended up convincing you to play like 5 games in a row because I was like, I've got to get a win out here. I don't think I won, but the puzzle, right? The combinations just kept changing, and I just always chasing my tail trying to get the right win. But so that's, once again, the puzzle and that infinite randomness, I suppose, as well, trying to crack that code almost.
Yeah.
Ralph, what about you? What are some games that you could play forever?
So one game that was definitely in my top 10 is Blood on the Clock Tower with 99 different characters.
We need a sound for that.
Yeah, I think so.
Blood on the Clock Tower.
Because I'm going to keep bringing it up. 99 different characters, the player interaction, the replayability that's there when you are a different character. What's the best play here? You're always thinking. It's one of those games where you're thinking the entire hour that it takes or less. So that one. My other one that's not in my top 10 is Res Arcana. Just, everyone, you draft a deck of, I think, 8 cards. It's a race to 10 points, much like TI. It's just a 2 to 3 player game, I'd say. It can play more, but 3's the max and pretty comfortable. And Croconaut.
Yeah, actually, yes.
Yeah.
I've got to say, Ralph, every time I hear you talk about Blood on the Clock Tower, and you talk about it in such a not methodical, but it sounds like a lot of the time you talk about it with like the way that you play it, like what's the best play here and what's the best action. Whereas like I just think of us when we played games of Resistance, and it just literally turns into shouting matches of us going, "You're lying, fucker, you are." Like
that doesn't happen in Clock Tower, because the thing is, when you're dead, you're still in the game, so you can't. The jig's not up.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So
he is very reverent when he talks about the game, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
A lot of respect for it.
That's why I really think we're going to have to do an online version of this, or at least an in-person for us, very shortly, get us all involved in it. I will say, on Res Arcana, that game threw me the first time you taught it to me, because I didn't understand it, because I'm used to having a hand of 7 cards, and then you get more cards to play with. Whereas like Res Arcana says, no, you've just got these 8 cards, and here are some basic actions in the setup.
Do your best with it, yeah.
Figure it out.
And
what's your best combo that you can figure out? Like this is Res Arcana is literally big combo, big point.
Yeah,
it is
you'll
like,
kill it, Blayke. Honestly,
we really do
Such a
actually need
good
to
game.
teach Blayke that. I do also kind of. I mean, Blayke, what's a game for you that I guess that you could replay forever? I mean, seeing as we're going around, we have missed you.
Yeah, I mean, I seem to, even though my top 10 games, right, were all these big, long, sort of heavy board games, I think that when it comes to the games that you can ask me at any point, and I'd go, yes, I'm down for that, would actually be the opposite, the complete opposite end of the spectrum. I actually think Cockroach Poker meets that criteria.
Poach decks, please.
I just revealed the expansion, sorry.
yes.
Yeah, but this game actually, I think it fits that criteria for me. It's just one of those games you can pull out at any time.
Yeah.
It's so easy to play. I think these bigger board games, at least for me, you come out of those a little bit fatigued. And, obviously we're not talking about going forever straight away, one after another, but they do start to bog down a little bit. But the games like Cockroach Poker, Coup, for example, these sort of bluffing, quick-paced, card-based games, for me, those are the style that I think I could just play drop of the hat.
I love how Cockroach Poker turns into that strategy game with it before you even realise it happened.
Definitely, yeah.
I think there are also games like, you're right, like games like Garnshon Clever, really laid back, just one, games that require not a lot of
brain power to play.
Brain power. They don't drain you as much. I think some of the best, those are some of the best games. You are right. You can actually just whip them out any time, play it. Yeah, people are more open to playing these games too, because it's like, hey, we've only got 40 minutes. Let's just do. Not only we can knock out one game, we can play it twice. So the first game you can learn it, and then we can go and do that. I think that's really good. On that kind of topic of small games, though, I do want to have the final thing before we do kind of start to wrap up, though, is like some of the games that we think give us the best value for money based on the idea of money, because like replayability, like, because I'm just going to start off with a very one which I love. I think Sushi Go is one of the best value for money games out there. It's literally a tin. It's got 140 cards in it. You can play it at 6 players. It costs you $30 Australian dollar dues, and that is literally, you can play that. Yeah. And that very.
Not only can you play it a lot, but it's easy if you've got a group who already knows it to bring someone new in, and there's not a lot of downtime teaching that new person, and suddenly they're all playing. We did that only a couple of weeks ago at a family dinner, and had 3 full rounds, played a full game, or whatever they call it, loved teaching the new people and seeing them go, oh yeah, cool, we can twig onto the easy point scoring system. It's easy to figure out what's going on. The only thing that really tripped everyone up was that you change directions every hand. That was the most confusing part of the game at the end of the day. But yeah, so certainly value for money in Sushi Go.
Well, I just wanted to say, to give an example, right? If I look at my stats app, I've currently played 4 games of it, and each game averages, with different rounds, with 3 rounds in it, each game averages about 50 minutes. So let's just say, for example, that's just under 4 hours of entertainment at this game. It cost me $30. It's it's $7 an hour worth of entertainment, which is honestly, I think, worth it. And I still have the thing in front of me that I can still then go and play it with other groups and do that. If I put that onto my, let's go to Twilight Imperium, I've spent $550 on it. However, I have spent over 50 hours playing this game. So
yeah, but you've only played it twice.
No, cool. I've actually, to be fair, I have played it 5 times. To be serious, but then if I did the math, it's like I'm at about $10 an hour, which if I actually break it down that way, I'm actually like...
You can't get a movie for $10 an
No,
hour.
you can't, right? So you're actually kind of doing pretty well there. So, but
Same as brass.
Yeah, same with that. Ralph, you've written one down here, which I do think, a couple here, which I actually do agree with you as well, on the bigger end, but with some games that you think are value for money.
Yeah, so I put Gloomhaven on the list because I went quarters in that with 4 guys, really.
Mm-hmm.
There was 4 of us, and we put hundreds of hours into that box. So I think value for money is any board game that you're going to go back to and play. There's so many games that we have, especially myself, that are sitting on the shelf because I play it one time a year. And I find that I sell those games. I know, Nee, you recently got rid of Viticulture. I like that game for the theme, but in terms of value for money, I've only played it like twice.
Well,
So,
that's why I got rid of it. It just became one of those games which was pretty to look at, and I kind of liked it, but I just knew it was never really going to make it to the table. It hadn't been made to the table in the last 2 years.
no, like if I have 4 people over, I'm playing Architects of the West Kingdom. You know what I mean? Like,
so that's why I think we need to keep that in mind. I mean, Blake, what is something, and Matt, I guess for you two, what are some games that you think are good value for money as we kind of wrap this up here?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to go something different, because, you know, it's easy to get wrapped up in how many dollars you're spending per hour you play the game. That's definitely probably the biggest consideration for people. But I think games where you're actually getting physically your value for money, you know, in terms of like player boards and pieces inside the game. Like one of the games I've kickstarted, the Dead by Daylight board game, hasn't come yet, but just looking at how much I'm getting in the box, it's cost me over $100 for the game, but I'm getting, you know, 30 different player boards. I'm getting, you know, miniatures for, you know, the little generators that are going on the board for each killer, for each survivor that you're going to play. And I just think that, you know, that's an incredible value for money in terms of just the physicality of the game, looking at it, being able to play something different each time you come to it.
Yeah, I went through that phase with my Kickstarters where it was, right, how much value am I getting out of all of the things that I'm actually going to get delivered to my door? I think that was, oh god, what was the big one I bought? Edge of Darkness.
Eternal Darkness?
Massive Darkness. Massive Darkness, that's the one, which I went all out for. I think I spent $220 or more on, and I've never played it, but I love owning all the miniatures. I love that it takes up an entire cupboard of just stuff. I'm like, this was really good fun just to buy and own. But I mean, that's probably not sticking with the theme tonight, I suppose. But in the theme-wise, brass is my number one for as much time as I've gotten out of the game, and that physicality aspect.
I think that does touch on, you know, and this is going to come out, how do I put this, as a bit of a, you know, a flowery pansy sort of
sentiment. Let your colours shine.
But okay. I think what it all boils down to is what's value is what you're going to... It comes back to what you said. What value comes out of what you're going to have fun with. Yeah. What you enjoy. Whether you enjoy it sitting on your shelf, if that's...
We dance that line here between the collector's side of board games and the player's side of board games.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, look, some people just collect fresh dolls, right? The pop head things, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, granted, they're $25 or what a thing. So it's like, but what? They're just a doll. It's like
you can make money off those things. I've got a mate that collects them, and he hunts down the actual collectible one and waits for it to get value, and it's kind of like Pokemon cards.
Sounds like Beanie Babies as well, you know, back in the day. Yeah. But that's fine. Like, and that's the thing, which realistically, at the end of the day, value for you is going to differ from person to person. You're right, Blake, and that value we find, I think, it comes in replayability, comes in collectability, the collectability, and the experience that you have. So
I used to try to have a perfect board game collection, but I only wanted one of everything. I wanted one worker placement game. I wanted the best one. You know what I mean? I want one deck builder. And then I was just like, yeah, that game's pretty good too. And then now I've got like 4 worker placement games. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not really a collector anymore. It's just if a game's fun and I know I'm going to play it, I have to have it.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at at the moment. And now my rule of thumb is if it can't fit in my Calyx, then I need to figure out what it's going to replace, or is there a better configuration of board games? more likely,
we need a bigger house.
Or can I get another Calyx?
Well, look, I have a 4x4. I know there is a 5x4, so you know. Well.
Yeah, you
Well,
see
it is
them all the
Christmas.
time on Facebook Marketplace. Cube shelving unit available for pickup down the road.
Oh, fantastic. All right, and with that, I think we're going to come to the end of the episode now. So we'd like to thank you very much for tuning in to episode 17, tonight's episode. If you enjoyed what you listened to, please make sure you hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube, the follow button on the podcast service that you've been listening to, and also go check out our Facebook group, www.facebook.com/groups/BoardGameGateway, or go to our website at boardgamegateway.com. You'll find all the links to our Discord, YouTube, all the fun stuff there. We'd like to see you on Discord. We've actually now started our own buy, sell, and trade channel. So if you actually want, speaking of buying, selling, and trading, we've got now a little forum in our Discord community. So we're going to start using that a bit more. So come and join us there. But on behalf of myself, behalf of Matt.
Sorry, am I allowed to say anything?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to say goodbye?
No, we're speaking to the other Matt at the table.
Well, like the pause was there, but I didn't know if it was a pause because you were aiming for the...
Let me retry that again. On behalf of myself, Matt, Ralph, and Blake, we'd like to say goodbye.
No, there was no pause. I'm really confused.
No, but now I go goodbye.
Good one, Matt. You've ruined it for all of us.
That's it. Now we have to record the entire podcast once again.
Hello, everyone.
Before
Speaking
next
of
week,
replayability, let's start again.
Yeah,
instead of our question of the
it's
week
easy
for
to-
our audience, I want to see pictures of people's card houses on their tables, because that's been the main theme of tonight.
Yeah, show us your biggest card house that you can
Yeah.
build, because we're all terrible.
Talk about replayability, right?
Well,
there.
speaking of replayability, if you liked it, go listen to some of our other podcasts. We could use the stat padding. Anyway, see you later, guys.
See
Thank
you
you for
guys.
listening.
Thanks again.
Oh. I nearly resisted for the entire
I saw you grab him and put him away, and I was like, all right, I better leave it. And then he starts building it himself.
That's what I thought you were doing.
No,
Yeah, I think he's taking it off me.
no, because I did. That's exactly what it was. And then Blake decided he was going to do it. And I went, well, I can't be the only one who didn't have a go.
I'm sitting there, sitting like this, and fall over, and the way he grabbed it was like,
Right? So I thought, all right, I better just chill.
No, that was me doing it when Blake did it. And it felt like, let me have a go. Everyone else had a go.
I had my laugh under control.
You did.
Until I was sitting here like this looking at the roof, and then Nee looked over at me, and he just looked at me really quizzically, and I'm
then
like,
you saw
I'm okay, like I'm good. And then he